What was the thing with Hubbard?
What?
What was the thing with Hubbard that you were saying?
Wait, the thing that I covered?
No, the thing with Hubbard.
Oh yeah. So obviously Hubbard isn't a oh fuck, I don't know water inside. Hubbard isn't a professional wrestling fan, but him being a like not like to the extent of like Brock Lesnar or Kurt Angle, but like him being a amateur wrestler, I thought a cool segment. What was that face?
I was gonna get the shirt, but they only have it in small left.
Acknowledge daddy. I like it. That's
No, acknowledge your daddy.
oh no, I didn't see the York. Either way, I like the shirt though. That's amazing.
But why is it only an option in small? That doesn't make sense.
Because you're looking up to your daddy. You need to be a small man.
Whatever.
But so the segment I was thinking of.
Do I get this one if they have it? Yeah. Do I get this one?
Trish Stratus. I mean, if you want to.
100% satisfied.
If you want to.
Replica side plates? What the hell?
Replica side plates?
Just replica side plates, I guess.
Yeah, I mean the replica side plates are basically, if you like notice from like 2016 to current, when someone wins the world title.
Oh no, I know what they are. I just didn't know you could buy them.
Oh yeah, I guess. Yeah, it's kind of stupid that you can buy them because like whatever, but it is what it is. I don't sell the merchandise. I just buy it. But finally getting back to answer your question. The segment with Hubbard is because obviously you're a pro wrestling fan. Hubbard is not a pro wrestling fan, but was an amateur wrestler. And then I'm kind of like the in-between of I'm a pro wrestling fan, plus I was an amateur wrestler.
Right.
So I was thinking about it earlier today, and before I even brought it up to you, I wanted to like talk to him to see if he'd even be up for it, because if he's not up for it, then this conversation doesn't matter. Right. But I was thinking like a cool segment would be like, oh, as someone who doesn't like pro wrestling, but was an amateur wrestler, like what are your thoughts and opinions on people like Kurt Angle, Brock Lesnar, and this guy who's going to be in WWE soon, Gable Stevenson? Like, what are your thoughts and opinions on them? Like, them going from a true, like, competitive sport to professional wrestling, like, does it take away from, like, their prestige of, like, everything they did in, like, amateur wrestling? Does it, like, change your opinion of them? Like, trying to like create a dialogue off of that. And he was like, yeah, like I think that'd be a cool dialogue. And like obviously like I don't know professional wrestling, but like I have my thoughts and opinions based on what I know of like high school, college wrestling. So like I'd be like down to have that conversation with you guys.
Wait, so is pro wrestling not competitive?
So when we say competitive, like when I'm saying competitive there, I mean
like it's not scripted.
Right, exactly. Like college, high school wrestling is like not scripted, whereas like not to say professional wrestling isn't competitive, because like you still want to be the best professional wrestler, like be the best in everyone's mind. But like at the end of the day, it still is that scripted thing where like the outcome is already known, but you're trying to make, regardless of the outcome, you're trying to make the best match possible. So it's competitive in that sense, but like you losing is already known.
Yeah.
So that was just like the segment I was thinking of like, whenever we get to the point of inviting guests on the show, like having someone who knows the competitive side of amateur wrestling, but dislikes pro wrestling, like getting their thoughts on those who make.
And then between the three of us, we have like the whole kind of range of.
Exactly. And like the way I presented to him earlier tonight was like, at the end of the day, I feel like I'm the perfect mediator, because again, you being the pro wrestling fan, not having wrestled, him being the wrestler, not liking pro wrestling, and then me being in the middle of I've wrestled and I also like pro wrestling. Like let me ask you guys these questions and like let's see where the conversation goes.
Yeah. I also think I still like the idea of trying signatures and finishers.
I do like that too. I thought it was like that. I feel like that though, better
And
for
then we can get people to comment like what finishers we should try.
I love that idea and I'm 1,000% down to do it. I feel like that's better for like the random like TikToks we upload. Less
Right.
so
Oh
for-
yeah.
yeah, like that's less so for like that's not as much for like the episodes we're gonna record. That's just like, hey, you and I happen to be hanging out together for 3 days.
Right. Yeah. It
That's,
doesn't have
that's
to be.
like we have 3 days together. Let's each do a move on each other one day. Let's get 6 videos out there and we'll upload them, whenever we have time, whatever.
Yeah. And then the idea that's so just to give you a little background on what I was saying. So I was thinking, like, could you imagine for that segment would be like, what would and maybe we can, I don't know how we would do this, but maybe we can try to have other people make a response. Like if I made another TikTok to it, like what would your dream breaking Flair's record like storyline be, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And that's where I was saying, like, if I don't know how it would be a very long setup, but because right now are Riddle and are Randy together again, or are they no longer together as a tag?
To my knowledge, they're still together technically, but Randy is injured.
Oh, okay, so that's why Riddle's kind of doing his own thing right now.
Yeah, Riddle's doing his own thing because Randy has some sort
Yeah,
of.
I think I saw that he was doing his own thing, so I wasn't sure if that was because of them kind of splitting up for Randy doing. Because what is Randy right now? 14 or 15? I think he's at least 14 because I think he's 14 by 2021, but I don't know if.
Well, yeah. So, I mean, I don't want to spoil anything, but have you seen in 2021? Have you seen his rivalry with Drew McIntyre yet? Oh no, that was 2020. That was 2020.
Yeah. He won it from McIntyre, and then McIntyre won it back from him like a week later or some bullshit.
Okay,
like
so you've already seen that. Yeah. So that was his 14th. So
okay, so he's probably only 14 right?
He's still 2 behind Cena and
Yeah.
by WWE's records, 2 behind Flair.
Right. So obviously this would only be by WWE records breaking Flair's 16 time, and I'm saying Flair because he was the first one,
right?
From there, but I think because. So I don't know how it would work out, but what I was thinking was, so Randy would, whether or not he's with Riddle, I'm thinking he wouldn't because he'd have to get at least another championship run. So he'd have to like win it for the 15th time or something, right? And then during that time, I don't know, in my mind, I was thinking either Riddle gets injured or somebody like Randy just doesn't have any backup, but this person that he lost his 15th time title to has all this backup. I don't know who it would be, but just has like backup, right? So then Randy's like, I need to call in somebody for backup, but it's not going to be like who you normally think. It's definitely not going to be Riddle. It's not because he's whatever, he's out injured, whatever the case, or they just don't talk anymore. But I don't want Randy, if Randy and Riddle are no longer together right now, but they're just planning on being back together after Randy's injured, I don't want it to end with one of them back betraying each other. Basically, I just kind of want it to fizzle out, maybe, because you'll understand why when I get to my point. But so he's obviously going to bring him back up, but it's going to be somebody that like nobody ever fucking knows who it would be, and it just happens to be John Cena. So John Cena helps Randy Orton because did Cena come out for Randy's 25th? Or the other way around? Oh, yeah, I wasn't sure if you had watched it live, but I feel like there was something where there was acknowledgement that they have like mutual respect for each other, and like they obviously kind of not grew up in the WWE together, but they both started around the same time ish, and then right. So he calls him in for support just to have somebody as backup, helps him win his 16th time. It's just perfect because he's also a 16th time, so he's kind of like welcoming into the club kind of thing. So then Cena's still kind of back around for a little bit, still helping out Randy, and then all of a sudden they just kind of go for a tag team title run. Just why not? Right? Just why not? Randy's a title. I don't think Cena has ever been a tag team champion before, right?
Multiple times.
Has he?
Yeah, with
Mhm.
Shawn Michaels, The Miz, David Otunga,
Oh, right. I do remember that with the NXT thing.
all of them.
I
Yeah,
don't remember him being. Oh, I don't know why that. Well, either way, I don't know if that still ruins my thing. I just thought I couldn't ever remember him being a tag team champion.
yeah, he's
I
been.
feel like all of his times, it just kind of ran. Well, I guess Shawn Michaels wouldn't have been forced. I was like
Well,
with David Otunga, that was kind of he didn't really want to be the tag team champion with him.
the Shawn Michaels, he was tag champion with Shawn Michaels and Batista while he was in and The Miz while he was in rivalries with them. It was basically like, hey, it was like one of those situations where it's like, hey, you two guys are rivals fighting over this championship.
Maybe this doesn't work out then.
GM of
Well, there's lots of holes in my thing.
what'd you say?
I said maybe it doesn't work out then because now there's holes in my story.
Oh,
I was also trying to think of a way because I feel like every time they tried to make Cena a heel, it just never works out.
the only time he was really like a good heel was when he was the Doctor of Thugonomics and he was like just rapping against the city
Yeah.
in, which personally I enjoyed. I thought it was fucking hilarious. But yeah, no, I get
But
it.
even then, though, I don't think people. I mean, I guess people still consider him as a heel, but I never. I don't know.
Yeah, he was like, I don't know.
Either way, the thing was they were gonna tag, get the championship, be a decent tag team for however long, not too long, I don't know, whatever. But then Cena was gonna turn on him.
Oh,
And that's where Cena was gonna be kind of like the heel perspective in this. And then I still don't know who would win though in the final match because Cena turns on him and he's like, screw this, I'm done being like recognized with you and Ric Flair. Basically challenge you for the title. I'm gonna be the 17 time. But I don't know who I would prefer. I think I'd rather prefer Randy win, but
so I feel like you, unless I missed it and I just was like not hearing it, I feel like you missed a step because I heard Randy gets his 15th title reign
yes.
and loses it to a group because he has
Right.
backup.
And then he
Right.
has backup but in the form of Cena.
Right.
Wins it back. No, I said wins it back.
Oh,
It helps him win it. Remember I said Cena helps him win it. And it's kind of like a nice tie-in, like, oh, I'm helping you win your 16-time title. The only one of the only other two people that is a 16-time is helping you win your 16th time. Does that make sense?
got it. Yeah. So
Then because they were such a successful tag team, they decide to go for the titles. And then maybe they don't win the titles. Maybe that's when Cena turns on him and he's like, no, screw this. I don't want you.
got it.
I want to be higher recognized than you and Flair or some bullshit.
Got it. So I like that idea of them like having to team with each other.
Yeah, I was trying to think of how I could get them to team and also obviously to get Randy to catch up. So that's where that came in.
The only thing that like I've ever thought though is like
say he's facing Roman and Roman has the Usos and Cena comes out to help or something. That's where it could.
that's not bad. Like that's definitely not bad at all. That's really good. But like because I don't know, in my mind, the thing I've always tried to figure out is, Cena's already at 16. Even if we get to a point where Randy is also at 16 and he's the champion, if he faces Cena, Cena wins, he gets number 17.
Right.
But Randy gets nothing. If they're both at 16, Randy's the champion and he retains, he's still at 16. Like in my mind, the way for one of them to get 17 is basically like it has to be they're both at 16 already. Someone else is the champion, and they have a triple threat match, which kind of, in my mind, takes away from it because then it's like, yeah, you became 17, but it wasn't a one-on-one thing. The only other option, which I also don't love,
I don't think they ever do it, but a triple threat elimination.
that would be a good idea. Which
I don't think they ever do that, right?
Very
rarely. At most, maybe a fatal four-way elimination, but I don't think there's ever.
That'd be the only other thing that I can think of is, Randy and John are both at 16, and for some unbeknownst reason, whichever champion, whether it's Universal or WWE, is vacated, and the two of them end up being like in the finals of some random tournament.
Yeah. Well, that's like I feel like that's a shorter, quick way to get to the, like, because you just, they just happen to have the 16. So I was thinking of a way to make it all kind of work into one big thing. But I see your point though, because it would only be beneficial to Cena if he becomes a set. Which chances are, if it ever were a match between, I don't know who, well, I guess with Triple H, I don't know who would, if Triple H is calling the shots, I don't know who would win. If it was Vince, I feel like Cena would end up winning.
I feel like even with Vince, it's debatable though, because like, who do you give it to? Like do you give it to Randy, who's the third generation
Right.
wrestler, who
JBL will always say, if you were to build a superstar from ground up,
right.
it would be Randy Orton.
Exactly. Like if
Which is why I'd say I would think Randy Orton should win, and it doesn't help. I mean, it does help that he's my favorite, but
right.
Hey, Randy.
There's that aspect of it. The other aspect of it is, John Cena is the prototypical WWE superstar. He's like, the stereotypical baby face.
Right. Well, that's why I was saying he turns heel, and because I feel like everybody loves Randy now.
Hollywood John Cena comes out. That's
it. Like, he's Hollywood John Cena. He's like, screw this. I want to be recognized higher than both of you because I deserve to be, kind of thing. And then Randy humbles him a bit.
Right. And you know what? I'm glad that.
Then I don't know how I would turn that into making it away for Randy. Or I guess Randy ends up losing it to whoever but then again, how do they get that back?
That's what I'm saying. Like, I feel like the only way for it to be a true, like, who's the true world champion is it needs.
Or maybe that's what it is. Randy's at his 16 already, or no, he has everything works out the way I was saying, and then the person wins it back from Randy, and when Randy's finally getting his like final, like, close the case on whoever this person is, no, that wouldn't work either.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I feel like the only way to have the true undisputed, quote unquote undisputed champion, like 17 time, is it needs to be a one-on-one versus John Cena versus Randy Orton for a vacant championship, which is like, are you really going to, whether it's real life, someone gets like seriously injured, which I hope doesn't happen. I don't want anybody to get like seriously injured. Or, a storyline. Like, are you really going to create a storyline of someone getting injured and giving up a world championship just so you can have John Cena and Randy Orton?
Things have been done.
Like, but I mean, either way.
But no, I get what you're saying. No, I get it. Yeah.
Either way, I think that's going to be a great discussion for us to have, both on not a behind the scenes episode, as well as like as a TikTok conversation of like, what do you guys think? The other, kind of going off of that, one of the other conversations I want to have at some point.
Because is there anybody even, Triple H would be the next close, right? Is he at 13? Or is he at 14 as well?
Triple H is like 13 or 14 too. He's like roughly, off the top of my head.
Done, right? Because I don't think there's anybody else that's close, right?
The next closest behind Triple H, I think, is Hulk Hogan at like 12.
Yeah, but nobody else that's still active.
He's like 8 years old. Brock Lesnar is like semi-close. He's at like.
Oh yeah, he's gone back and forth a bunch of times.
He's at like 11, I want to say, maybe. But definitely not in the same episode, because that conversation of 17 time, it could be a 40-minute conversation in of itself. Yeah. But another conversation that I'm having in the back of my mind that I want to do eventually is, even if, whether it's Cena or Orton, whoever ends up getting that 17 time, them versus Ric Flair, who is the true like world champion? Because in my mind, it's like Cena or Orton, just replacing each other, doesn't matter. They've gotten 16 world championships from one organization, as opposed to Rick, where it was like, at a time period where, they were all part of the NW, like all of the organizations were part of the
world championships weren't easily accessible.
They weren't easily accessible, and it was like, readily
available or whatever.
Rick was part of we'll just call it WCW, but like Rick was part of WCW, but he had to have promoters from all these other organizations agree. Yep, like basically agree. Like, yep, we think Ric Flair is the best commodity in professional wrestling at this time, so we're gonna make him world champion 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times. So it's like, who's really the best? The person who gets 16 championships from one promoter versus the guy who's basically unanimously decided to be the best from 20 promoters.
But you could also say that a lot of those other promoters at that time all kind of compiled into,
Right.
in one way, shape, or form, WWE, making WWE like top notch. So if you were going to get 16 world champions from one organization, it should be the top one to be considered on par or even be in the same conversation, I guess, right?
Right.
Which is what we're here.
I think that's what makes it such an intriguing conversation of
Right.
the time periods between, just like, since Cena's already at 16, we'll just use Cena as an example. Like, I think it's an intriguing conversation because the time periods between Cena winning 16 championships versus Ric Flair winning 16 championships are so different. So it's like, what's the validity of those?
You know what they could have done for Flair's final match that he had? Just randomly, just for like the week, just do like a strip the titles, one of the titles from Roman, and be like, you don't even show up every week anymore, so we're gonna take one of these from you just to have a nice little.
I don't know if you saw any of the clips, but in like pre-WCW, the company that like became WCW was Jim Crockett Promotions, so the initials JCP. In Ric Flair's final match, like that whole pay-per-view, because it wasn't just his match, they had like a bunch of matches beforehand, the ring aprons and stuff, the logo was JCP. So like, because I think Jim Crockett had a son, so like his son is still a person, so like it's his name. It's his name. Like he owns.
Does he just not become a person just because the company?
But it was funny. It was like a nice throwback. Like Ric Flair's final match, like the pay-per-view that he was a part of, was promoted by Jim Crockett, who like
his beginning,
where he started.
It's full circle kind of thing.
Yeah. So it was like it was really a nice tribute of like, you know, I started in Jim Crockett. Yes, it turned into WCW and turned into all these other things, but like I started Jim Crockett, I ended Jim Crockett.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I mean, although he probably should have ended.
He should have ended like Shawn. His last match should have been Shawn Michaels WrestleMania 24.
Yeah,
he did. That's, you know, it's funny because
I love that you said. I think it was you that said it. He was like that. You were like, "Oh yeah, Ric Flair just sees Sting doing all this shit." And he's like, "Oh, I could probably do it again."
Well, it's even funnier that you say Sting too, because a day or two ago on TikTok, one of the other wrestling creators was answering like a TikTok question of like, "Oh, who's your favorite like wrestling rivalry?" And his favorite wrestling rivalry was a toss-up between Randy Savage and DDP, Diamond Dallas Page, or Ric Flair versus Sting. And I was like, oh, I commented from our combined page. I was like, yeah, I agree. Ric Flair versus Sting is one of the greatest rivalries of all time, unless it happens in Impact when Sting is 58 and Ric Flair is like 73. Like at that point, like it shouldn't happen anymore. But you know, yes, one of the greatest rivalries of all time.
Jesus. Yeah, they're getting old.
Oh, shit. All right, so we've been like chatting a bunch and stuff that could have been an actual episode.
Yeah, that probably could have been.
But
an impromptu planning episode.
It worked. It worked. I like it. Or I like it. It's still working. So for today,
Did you already eat sausage and rice?
What was that?
Did you already eat sausage and rice?
No, I ordered pizza. and
Oh.
it's been sitting at the pizza place for like 20 minutes.
That's why I was like, but you said sausage and rice. I'm like, what the fuck? Which is randomly is like, yeah, I'm gonna order sausage.
Oh, no, sorry. Yeah, like I didn't use punctuation correctly. But I was saying, should I order food or should I like basically heat up sausage and rice that I already have? And then you didn't answer quick enough, so I ordered. Um, but it's been sitting at the pizza place for like 20 minutes now, which sucks. But yes, what was I saying? Oh, so
I don't have any guess the wrestlers if that's what we're planning on doing. Should we just do it tomorrow? I literally just thought about that right now. Wait, did I do both of mine from last time?
I don't remember.
Let me
We
check.
did Mickey James because we both had her.
I didn't do. Did we do both of them?
I feel like we did too, but I don't. I mean, I don't want you to tell me who your second one is in case you didn't do it.
Did me saying they've doubled their size since being in the WWE makes it ring any flags? Ring any bells?
Maybe.
Oh, I took a note of something else that I apparently wanted to talk about. I said that I'm interested to see if now that Triple H is in charge, if there will be less love interest storylines for the mid card like women or females, because I feel like every mid card female that ends up kind of being like that has potential, but just maybe needs a little bit more training and more kind of spotlight or whatever, ends up going into like a love story or like I was watching Lana and all of a sudden she's with Bobby Lashley again. But I was like, she was in 2 Money in the Banks, and I don't know if you've seen any part of 2021 yet, but there was an for 6 weeks straight on Raw, Nia Jax slammed Lana like Samoan dropped her through the fucking announce table 6 weeks in a row on Raw. Every Raw she did it. And I was like, they've really, I mean, not to say that, oh, you just need to be able to take a beating to be a superstar, but I'm like, she's been in like a lot of the physical matches. She's clearly can take a beat and like let her, get the training and the actual, but no, you're gonna put her into a freaking love story with Bobby Lashley, and I don't know. But yeah, that was what I was wondering. I don't
So,
know.
I like that because I feel like not to try and take away from your idea there, but like
I know, but because it could have just been a thought that was before I got to where we are now. It might could have changed. I don't know.
well, no, what I was gonna say is to like kind of expand on your idea to make it a larger conversation, like the topic being mid card women's wrestling.
Right.
You
Talk
kind
about
of
the
going
belt
into
and stuff.
right, like you kind of what you were just talking about, and then also me kind of bringing it into that TikTok I made a few weeks ago with like bringing back the Divas Championship as a mid card type of thing, like having a
I'm
conversation.
not even call it the Divas, but I mean, I wonder.
Right. Well, I mean, I even said that in the TikTok I made. I was like, I don't like using the Divas Championship, like that
the
aspect.
concept of it. Yeah.
Yeah, the concept of it. So like, I feel like that could be a whole conversation that we could do in this episode of like, women's mid card. We need something because as much as you and I may not like it because we don't think Jade Cargill is that great performer, like AEW has women's mid card. WWE needs that as well, kind of.
What's their mid card title?
TBS.
And who was that one?
Jade Cargill.
So wait, Jade is considered mid card for them?
Yeah.
Really?
She's not there. She's not the women's champion.
Oh, yeah, I guess.
Yeah. So yeah, Jade.
Because that they call it the TBS and not. I mean, I guess it's not weird that they call it the TBS Women's. It's just the TBS equal right.
It's not. It's exactly. It's not specifically the TBS Women's Championship. It's just the TBS Championship is a women's title. So I think that's a whole conversation right there. Is like WWE needs like to do something more with their mid-card women's division other than just like the random romantic storylines. So write that down.
What time do you have work tomorrow?
11.
Until
11.
11 till 11.
Well, my schedule says 12 to 10.
But
I'm gonna go in early and stay late because the bar opens at 12. I basically think they're trying to do that to avoid paying me extra. But fuck them. I don't care that I'm being recorded.
don't you make like hourly like $4 an hour or something like that?
It's 10.
Oh,
New York
wow.
minimum wage. Liberals, thank you.
Nice. That's how it was in Washington State when I was living there 10 years ago, but
Yeah.
I've
Yes.
never heard of it being anywhere. I don't know if it's like that out here yet. I don't think it is.
When I say they have to pay me extra, it's not a lot. But there's
Yeah, still $10 an hour then.
well, there's that.
So,
But
like me, I was basically making like 50 cents an hour after taxes.
well, there's also a New York law that says if you're an hourly, the reason I say I think they want to like keep me from making more. It wouldn't be a lot. It'd be like a single hour. But there's a New York law that says if you're an hourly employee, and guys, if you're watching this recording, this obviously has nothing to do with wrestling. We're shooting shit right now. There's
People would be watching.
this is behind the scenes, so I'm gonna upload it to YouTube. But there's a New York law.
1:19 in the morning. You're a psychopath.
They're not gonna see it tonight. I'm gonna upload it in like 3 days. But there's a New York law that basically says if an hourly employee works more than 10 hours in a single day, and that includes like if they work 6 hours, have a break of 2 hours, and then work 3 hours, that 3-hour break counts towards it. You're required to pay them one single extra hour of like overtime rate, basically.
Interesting.
So it's like overtime rate is $15 based on that 10. So I think the reason they have me scheduled from 12 to 10 p.m. is because that's 10 hours, so I don't hit that 10 plus hours. But 12 o'clock is when the bar actually opens. Normally on a Sunday, I would get there at 11 to start like, opening taps, like doing work to the bar. You know what you have to do. Like doing all of that shit. And then
Sundays, I always had to clean the beer baths. Those are always fun.
Yeah. But so I would normally work like 11 till 7, but there's also a party that starts at 7, and they're having me stay for that. So I think that's why they're having me come in an hour late, and the party runs from 7 till 10. But then there's like the hour breakdown of a party, which would go to 11. So I think what they intended was like, whoever bartender is
We're scheduling you for the party, but you have to prep and close.
Well, sort of. I think what their idea was like, the bartender that works on Sunday can do the normal bar back setup from 11 to 12. And then, Alex, you will work the party, and the bar back that normally would relieve you on Sunday anyways can do the breakdown, just so we don't have to, one, pay you the extra 2 hours plus that overtime, or quote unquote overtime. But I'm just going to go in at my normal time and leave after the party is done and my breakdown, so I can get those extra hours. Yeah. So long. That long fucking story short is I start at 11 tomorrow.
Solid. No, because I was going to say, then do you, since we have like we just did our prep kind of now, do you want to do the actual episode tomorrow night? And that way I can think of my guest the rest.
Well, it's up to you. I won't. Because if I'm ending at 11, I'm not getting home until at least 12:30.
Yeah, but it's 12. That's what time we started tonight, which I'll be up anyways. But I don't know if it's too late for you, that's fine too. We can do it now.
It doesn't matter. It completely up to you, because realistically, I still have 2 Guess the Wrestler episodes. I have 2 Guess the Wrestler segments from the last episode that I have to upload to TikTok. So worst case scenario, even because we've waited like 3 weeks already. Worst case scenario, I have a couple of Guess the Wrestlers. I could always do like one, like for this episode, it can be a shorter episode. I could do one Guess the Wrestler for you. We could do a couple of segments and then cut it off, and then you have a week or 2 to figure out your next one. But we can also do it tomorrow too.
Yeah, I was just figuring tomorrow because it's what is it? It's like 1:30, and I'm gonna be yawning in the next one because I'm already starting now.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, so then I guess that, I mean, I'm fine with that. We can do it tomorrow night. Let's just I guess figure out the agenda.
Yeah,
Like,
that's
I
yeah,
know what we're gonna do.
yeah. So that way
Um,
we can start when I mean, no rush or anything, but like that way we can get to business.
yeah, so one thing is gonna be guess the wrestler.
Did we want to try tackling the breaking players record?
Yeah, I like that as like the could you imagine? So
Yeah.
we have guess the wrestler. We have the mid card women's
Hmm.
dialogue. We have could you imagine?
No, so we do one round of guess the wrestler each. These two topics. Do we want to try for another round of guess the wrestler each?
I'm good with just doing one round because the other
Did we only do one in each so far?
the first two episodes we did one each, and then the last episode we did two each. And the last episode was the longest, which not that we have like a time restriction, but like I feel like obviously the longer an episode is, like it's
Yeah.
gonna be a little more it's gonna be harder for people to like keep attention.
Yeah.
So what I was thinking is could you just type this down before I start talking? Because I was
Well, that's what I was thinking. Because if we're doing guess the wrestler, and then the mid card women's, and then could you imagine? That's going to be about an hour, probably, right?
a little less. The
And
only
that's what I'm saying. So, like, if it's less than an hour, then we can do another round of guess the wrestler if we don't have anything else to think about.
it'd be good. The only topic that I had that I kind of wanted to talk through is just because kind of what we were going off of earlier.
Oh yeah, is there any current event things? I guess.
What?
Is there anything? Should we do something like one topic that we talk about every week or in every episode? Something like semi-current.
We could. The only I think obviously long term, yes, that's something we'll need to do. Like once we're fully caught up, like obviously we need to talk more current events.
Right.
But I think since we set the like kind of standard in
That's
episode
true,
one
yeah,
of like we're still catching up, like it's not as pressing right now.
Yeah.
The topic that I actually wanted to talk about is kind of going off of what we were talking about earlier of like how Hubbard obviously isn't a fan of wrestling and stuff, like reactions of our like friends, family, loved ones of like hearing that like we're doing a wrestling podcast of like kind of like, oh wait, you're doing a podcast on this like this fake shit, what's wrong with you type of thing. I'm not saying anybody actually said that.
Yeah.
You know,
or like, yeah, or like the person that commented the one time, I was like, I can't get behind something that's fake.
yeah, like you know, like kind of just getting like as we've told people or people have as we've been more open about like, yeah, we're wrestling fans, we're also doing a podcast, like talking through like some of the like initial knee-jerk reactions that we've gotten out of that. Like I feel like that'd be like an interesting topic to kind of go into of like it's
I haven't gotten any like weird reactions yet.
oh, you haven't? Okay. Must be nice.
But again, I don't really talk to anybody, so
Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah, fair enough. Like
and I think people that I do talk to, like my family and stuff, are just like too afraid to tell me that I'm being weird or something.
fair enough. I mean, like
Understandable.
fair enough. Because I mean, like, yeah, I've had not necessarily like negative reactions. I mean, we can go further into it in the actual episode, but like
Right.
I've had like Alicia being like, "Oh, you're actually spending all your time on this." I'm like, I don't know what to fucking tell you.
What else was I gonna be doing?
Like, rather me be out clubbing every night, watch my wrestling and like talk about it. It's like I've had that. Like I've had the like.
Honestly, though, it's not really like anything's changed. It's just we film ourselves talking now, which is basically what we said, anyways.
I mean, I think it's.
And we go a little bit out of our way to think of and talk about wrestling more, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely do got we were like we've said, we talk about it anyways, but it's
Right.
Now that we're recording,
More planned talking than it ever was before.
recording we would talk about it anyways, but we're doing more of a planning of like, hey,
Right.
we want this. It can't just be like random conversation. It has to be somewhat structured.
Right. So that's what, yeah, that's what it's
Like-
more like a planned conversation, or not even planned, but just
It's like these are our topics, but then we're gonna
premeditated conversation.
But I mean, like, even still, I think part of the conversation could be because, like, when I was out in San Diego for the wedding last week, it was like, CJ brought up, like, oh, like, it's kind of cool that you're doing the podcast or whatever. And then it, like, you know, without like trying to go too much into it, like, the conversation was like, oh, podcast is about wrestling. So Rebecca Farley was like, oh, like, you should have Jason on. Like, and this was before like me even thinking of like the pro wrestling.
Right.
It was like she was like, "Oh, you should have Jason on. Like, he loves wrestling. Like, that's all he's talking about." Jason was like, "Not." I want to say snarky, but like he was almost like, "No, not like my wrestling. Like, he's talking about like television wrestling, like WWE." And I'm like, "All right, you don't need to put it like that. Like, you don't shit type of thing." So it's like it's more of those things. Like, even when people are like accepting of it, it's kind of like the, oh, you're watching a children's show, basically.
Like it's almost like how a backhanded compliment feels.
That's kind of what I want the segment to be, of like people like, oh, cool.
But and I think we could definitely it'll open a can of worms of like things that we think about other people, their judgment is like,
exactly.
Why do you care so much about what other people get enjoyment out of?
And that's the thing. It's
But
like,
it's like that. Like I think somebody said it at one point, made a comment like, "Oh, you what did they say? It was something like, I'm glad you like it for watching," or something like, what the fuck was it? About watching men in underwear wrestle or something like that. And I was like, I think that says more about you if that's what you think is the only reason why people watch it.
well, exactly. And that, I feel like that's it's like it's a whole conversation of like, oh, you like this fake thing that's scripted, and it's like
Everything is
that's what fucking TV is.
That's what entertainment is, and that's why it's called sports entertainment.
Like, the legit difference is, and like I'm pretty sure I even said this in the one comment on YouTube, is like, yeah, you're right. It's all like the guy was like, oh no, it's completely different. I'm like, yeah, you're right. Wrestling,
They do their own stunts, yeah. Or they take their own
stunts. They're falling off of a 20-foot structure. Whereas the movie, someone needs to fall 20 feet, they're paying someone else, even if it is a cushion below them.
Even if it is a wrestler.
Yeah.
The Rock has his own stunt double.
Yeah, exactly. Like, even ex-wrestlers in movies are like, nah, I used to get paid for this. I'm done.
Yeah.
So
I don't need to do my own stunts. Sign me up.
So I think that'll be a good conversation. So let me.
That's gonna push us over an hour for sure. Between that and the 16 time, I think that
it definitely could. Yeah, I think we'll have to like. Not that we have to reel ourselves in.
It doesn't have to be. I mean,
we also don't. We just need to make sure we're not talking about each topic for 45 minutes.
Right, yeah. I think we should shoot for an hour. If we go over a little bit, that's fine. Like an hour and a half. We shouldn't probably go any more than an hour and a half.
Yeah.
What the fuck is that called?
All right. So yeah. So agenda for tomorrow, I guess. We can figure out the order that we want to do it in at a later point. But
I like starting off with Gets the Wrestler. I think.
You want to start off with that?
Or no, maybe it's a nice way to split up the series conversation.
I feel like it's a good way to split it up. Yeah.
Yeah.
So in no particular order, I guess we can do it in the order that I put it in. Mid cards women wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
Guess the Wrestler. Could you imagine the Ric Flair like record breaking scenario? And then reactions to having a wrestling podcast.
I think we put Guess the Wrestler in between reactions and Flair.
Okay. So
those are going to be the longer conversations, and it'll be nice to break them up, and that'll help us with breaking it up for the other socials.
Okay, so you're thinking,
maybe I'm wrong. I mean, unless you think I'm wrong, do you think the mid card conversation is going to be shorter?
I think it definitely
will. As long.
I think it will be. Yeah. So you're thinking
mid card Flair or mid card podcast, Guess the Wrestler Flair, or mid card Flair, Guess the Wrestler podcast.
Yeah, I mean, any preference to which of those two goes first? Like, do you want to do?
We can end it with the podcast.
End it with the podcast. Okay, so So mid card, Ric Flair record, guess the wrestler, reaction.
Yeah.
Or do you kind of want to do it like we did the first episode, where we do mid card, one of us guesses Ric Flair,
The
Right.
other guesses.
one of us guesses.
Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah, so we can do it like that. We can split it up that way, and then
Let's just not forget.
that's what I'm doing. So I have
We tend to forget and then just going back and forth. That's what's up.
yeah. So I mean, and I we can even write it down now. So I have agenda is mid card women's wrestling, guess the wrestler. Could you imagine Ric Flair record? Guess the wrestler. Reactions to having a wrestling podcast. Do you want to give your hints or guess first?
Doesn't matter. What did I do last time? I'll just do the opposite of what I did last time.
Last time you gave your hints first because I remember I guessed it in my first try because you said this person is country and it was Mickey James.
Right. Yeah.
All
No,
right.
you guessed it in the second try because you guessed somebody else, and then you said male or female, and then I said female, and then I said this person's country.
Whatever. Fuck off. I guessed it quick.
It was quick. Just give me the benefit.
All right. So you want to guess first?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. So all right. So women's mid card. Mike guesses Ric Flair record. Alex guesses reactions to a podcast, and then kind of just like close out.
And tomorrow I think I'm going to set up the other socials. Fuck, I need to get the hotel room too. But wedding. I was going to do it yesterday, and then I was like, shoot, I have more time to do it tomorrow, and here we are.
Good job.
So far we've done it.
Cool. So then I think the only other last agenda items not related to the podcast, but like just housekeeping is based on some of the feedback I got from the people that listened for us is kind of like when we start the episode, like, hey guys, like here's our agenda. Like
Right. Yeah.
Like, hey, today we're going to talk about XYZ type of thing.
How do we want to approach that?
You think on that. I'm going to make that your task. But
have we talked to James?
I haven't recently.
Sorry, ADHD like crazy right now.
I haven't recently, but the other thing I was thinking of is, regardless of like the intro we do with him, I'm also thinking at the very least for tomorrow's episode, doing a little DX.
Nobody wants to hear us sing. Oh, okay.
No. Doing show stealing of, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the D-Generation Y podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Alex. And then I point to you and you give your awkward silence for a few seconds and say, I'm Mike.
Because you immediately went to you being Road Dogg, so I was like, that makes me ass man. Should I just like start the show with like shorts, black shorts that have a yellow D and a yellow Y on them?
That'd be great. Okay, ladies and girls, this is the D-Generation Y podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Alex, and this is the Ass Man, Mike. Scissor me, daddy ass.
I tried explaining that to Delaney and she didn't think it was funny.
I can only picture you trying to explain it and fucking it up.
Yeah, pretty much. I was like, yeah, and I was like, do you remember that one guy? And she was like, no, I don't. And I was like, oh, okay. And I was like, well, anyways, his son. And I was like, I should just fucking ended it there.
Oh, you don't remember? I'll just go fuck myself. Never mind.
I was like, oh, you don't know who he was? No, you don't recall not even saying. She was like, oh, the one that we put his ass in people's face in the big guy. And I was like, no, that's Rikishi.
It's a fair guess. It's a fair guess.
It is. Oh, that's what we stopped doing. Having them guess wrestlers.
Who? Yeah.
And
don't get me that's part of why I wanted to do the reactions to the wrestling podcast, because I'm gonna stop recording right now.